The first step in making a new item is creating a new branch to work on. You can create a new branch by opening Gitbash where your codebase is. In Gitbash, type git checkout master to make sure you're on the master branch. Then type git checkout -b and then add your feature name. For this tutorial, I'll be adding the round meal, so my branch name will be round meal. The next step is to create a sprite for the item. I use Sprite to make sprites since it's free. I have this old round meal sprite lying around, so I'll use that. Space Station 14 uses .rsi folders to process sprites. These folders contain a file separate from the PNGs that interprets how the sprite should look. To make the RSI folder, go down to Resources, Textures, and for Objects, we go down to Objects. Here, you can decide what folder is best for your object. For my round meal, I'll go to Consumable, and then Food. And then we can make a new folder, call it roundmeal.rsi. On the dev wiki, you can find this free RSI editor, which will create the meta file for you. You can import PNGs and give them a state name. Since we're not animating this or having it be directional, we can just put icon. To finish creating the RSI file, go to File, Save As, and then find the folder we created in the previous step. Taking a peek inside the meta file, we can confirm that the editor did its job. We can see the license, the copyright, the size, the states, and the state's name. This is what you would do if you didn't have the editor. Alrighty, it's time to make the item. Go to Resources, Prototypes, scroll down to Entities because we're making an entity. Go to Objects, and again, here is where you choose what folder is best for your object. For my round meal, I'll go to Consumable, Food, and then I will create a text document. Make it roundmeal.yml. Alright, what is YAML? Well, it's pure data, so no logic statements, loops, any of that. It's simple syntax, in my opinion. You can read it and kind of tell what's going on. Basically, it's a place where you define a unique item and give it pre-existing components. Opening our YAML file, we can type -type entity to define it as an entity. Parent base item. This will give it some basic item components like a default size, an interaction outline, etc. An ID. Let's have it be round meal. A name, round meal, all lowercase, and a description, protein blasted. Booting up the dev map and trying to spawn this entity in by typing round. We can see it appears, but it doesn't have any sprite. This is because it doesn't have a sprite component. We can give it a sprite component by typing components -type sprite. Then having it be sprite, and then the path to the sprite. But be careful. If you're copying it as a path, be sure to delete any quotation marks and reverse the slashes. It also needs a state, which we can give it by doing state, and then the name of the state, which we established was icon. Returning to the dev environment, if we go back and try to spawn this in, we can now spawn it in, and we can see it has the proper sprite and description. Also, if you just added the component and you still have this dev environment up, you can just save the YML file and it will automatically update. All right, so we finally have our round meal in game, but there are a couple of problems. For one, it is much too small. An item of this caliber should be at least a 4x4. Next, I can't even eat it. It is a round meal, but there is no meal to be had. Basically, if you're making an item and you need that item to do something that a pre-existing item already does, you can look at that pre-existing item for a component that does that thing, if that makes sense. And then you could just copy that component for yourself. Going back into our YAML file, we're going to need to add a couple more components to get our round meal looking and functioning well. So I've opened up this meals YAML file to study. We can see that it has a food component, so we can add food. And opening up this meat component, we can see that it has a item component. Item, and it has a size. So we'll add that as well. Item. And the size we want to pass in will be huge. Now this is a preset thing, so you may want to study up on that more if you want different sizes there. And to have it actually contain the food and nutriment and protein, we're going to need this more advanced looking, don't let it scare you, component. It's called Solution Container Manager. So we just plop that in there. And you know, we could just copy paste, nobody's looking. And there. Now here we can list solutions. So there's a solution called food, and we can look at it and see what it has. It has how many units of reagent can it hold, the reagents it comes with. So there's nutriment, some of that. I want to edit this. So 31.4. Have it have 20 nutriment, some of that. And since it's protein blasted, that fits. I also want to be able to grind this up just to test and see if our reagents are all there. So I can go to meat, knowing that meat can be grinded in game. And we can look here. It has a extractable component, and it lists the grindable solution name, which is food, which is also here. So we could just take and just put that right there. Moving back into the dev environment, we can go to entities and spawn this round meal. All right. Check if it's huge, which it is. And then test the reagents. Lo and behold, there they are. Also testing if you can eat these. Let's see, round meal. And when I hit the use key, it works. What now? Well, you could keep refining it. Maybe make it drop a wrapper before use, like a NutriBread. You can also push it to GitHub on a remote branch using the on-screen commands in Gitbash. With GitHub, you can make a pull request or PR. This is how people actually add items to the game, once it gets approved, of course. Alright, so to demonstrate the power of YAML, this is a separate branch I've been working on. So, all of these balloons here and this, all of it was YAML. No systems were made in the progress.